This video is brought to you in part by the patrons of the Lazy Eyebrow, and from the comments and watch time from viewers like you. Thank you!
Skyfire reports that the Seekers took out one of his thrusters and that his navigation is down.
Alright, head over to Teletrain and monitor the situation.
Optimus, this weather bulletin just came off the wire. Have a look.
Wheeljack, what can you make out of this?
What, this? Why, I can make a hat, an arm shield, a pair of trousers...
Alright, give me that.
Hello, YouTube! Greetings from the Lazy Eyebrow to review 113A, the review for Earthrise Ironworks. As a few people pointed out in the comments, evidently I pulled a George Lucas and released the later part before the former. Considering that is my first name as well, I suppose that fits. Before I continue, I will point out that the ROT conversion set has been applied, but my talking points will be mainly towards Ironworks, unless I otherwise state so. Ironworks! Ironworks marks the first time I bought an entire wave of figures that weren't combiners. That's my unrelated factoid, but who is he in general? So Ironworks is a character from the G1 Zone era, like all the other Micromasters that they seem to be revisiting lately, which I find interesting. I said a while back that they're revisiting the Headmasters and Masterforce era of G1, and where could they possibly go from there, but, revisit Beast Wars and Armada and so forth? Well, I was dead wrong. But more than a few things in that video, and here we are. Still in G1, revisiting obscure releases that I've personally never heard of until recently, while simultaneously doing G1 again. And in that case, here he is. Not as the truck that Ironworks originally was, but becoming the base that he originally came with, a construction set. I think this is alright. It's got roads that drive up here, a bright yellow crane arm. It's not exactly accurate to what it was in the source material, but considering originality and whatnot, it's kind of neat. That being said, though, I do have an issue with it, and that is the size. It's way too small. Official imagery would have you get some other Micromasters and drive them on up, but given these platforms look like they're intended for two-way traffic, this certainly is not two-way traffic. The ROT set kind of fixes this by adding in conveyor belt lines as opposed to the two-way traffic, and does it ever fit better. And if you're about to point out the helicopter landing pad and my adherence to scale, maybe it's for one of those drones, It's just, there's options. I'm not saying it's perfect, but it's better than the two-way traffic. I don't know, I like it. Much better than the wildly out-of-scale roadways he comes with, that's for sure. So this figure does have some articulation in this mode. The crane arm, that will become a crane arm, retains all its functionality. It can lift, rotate, lower, all that fun constructionary, smeltery nonsense that Ironworks ROT can do. And given the port up top is a 5mm thing, this means that this being a crane isn't the only possible function. No, we can add surveillance tower functions for those times that Ironworks can be a center for Cybertronian prisoners.
What is this?
A center for ants?
To be fair, if it's going to be that though, it needs to be at least 3 times bigger than this. If surveillance doesn't suit you, how about defensive capabilities? Give Fort Max a run for his money. And well, if none of that works for you, you can still use the crane arm for smelting and forging. You can just reach on in there and grab whatever's been cooking. This project was forged in the heart of a dying spark. So, just how small is he? Are there any vehicles that could work for this set? Well, this is my 187 scale Countach. So maybe N scale, which is at 1/148. But if we're still talking the road, it's just a little too big. Mind you, he does have the connection ports that Siege and Earthrise have been using lately, so hey, you can pop the tracks from Mega Supreme in, and now Ironworks has a cool roadway to connect to. Though this also means that Hoist can connect to him. This image just hurts to look at scale-wise. Alrighty then, on to transformation. Ironworks is the very epitome of a parts former, which, as far as I was aware, was considered a negative thing as far as the community was concerned. I'm not terribly against it, it's just kind of a weird thing. This being the first one I've actually had in hand, as I skipped Cog 6-gun and Brunt. The transformation involves tearing this down to 9 different components and rebuilding it into something else. In this case, the unofficial communications tower mode. A mode that is not included in the instructions or on the box, but is seen in quite a few promotional photos around the internet. Start with this piece, add this plate to the back, take the legs and unfold them, then plug them in, fold them up together, add the torso piece, open this door and make a platform at it, rotate up the peg, add in the yellow parts up top, add the blaster in its second piece to form an antenna, apply the crane to the front, and you're done. If you have something like Siege Mirage or Earthrise Cliffjumper, you can swap out the crane attachment for the missile attachment for even more accuracy to this mode. There. The communications tower. And honestly, this isn't a bad mode. It's got this whole radio station vibe going on, and I think that's awesome. All we're missing here is the satellite dish windmill, and we'd be dang near on point. Well, with the power of the 3D print, we can get that going. This is a quick sketch-up of what someone could make, that being the 3-finned radar dish that people commonly mistake for a windmill. And I mean, for all we know, it could be a windmill. You gotta power the station somehow, right? Quite frankly, a 3-finned parabolic dish just doesn't make much sense to me anyway. But anyway, here's Ironworks as the communications tower in full. The colors may not be 100% correct, but I'd say he looks the part pretty good and can definitely be the radio communications tower for all your Micromasters, even going as far as to fit in alongside Countdown and his rocket base. Long story short, it's an alright, officially unofficial mode, and one I actually sort of prefer aesthetically compared to his actually official mode. So we've covered 2 modes so far, the official Forge construction base and the unofficial radio tower. On then to robot mode. To accomplish this, we go back to our major components. We then take the legs and extend out the thighs, apply the waist plate, the torso chunk, flip out the head and rotate it around, apply the crane discombobulator, and finally the arm actuator, which we then straighten out. Finally, the conveyor shield hangs neatly like a fresh linen sheet off the back of the robot. And Ironworks. This is actually a fairly neat robot. I like the yellow and black contrast, like this is some industrial inverse deluxe class Bumblebee. I think it works. Mind you, the unpainted grey feels a bit out of place, and its inclusion is what made me switch to the white background for this review, in that it just washes away with a neutral color background. I currently have 3 colors to work with now, white, grey, and black, and will therefore be rotating between the 3 based on what contrasts best against whatever figures on review for the day. That aside, robotic-wise, he's a pretty cool dude. He can hit a bunch of poses like everything in Earthrise can, all the articulation points are there for that range, and as an added bonus, he can separate himself and be used for whatever robot feels like it. And considering the Decepticon repro labels that I've implied, more often than not in this case, that'll be for Decepticon use.
Earthrise Ironworks is so powerful he can turn off a grapple.
Oh.
But now he feels useless, so it gives him another one. Double crane power!
Or how about uses parts as extra shielding for other robots?
So, they're gonna take care of my body parts, right?
Sir! Or even give Seedry's Astrotrain the leader size he so rightfully boasts about. Really anything is possible at this point when you have a robot whose function is literally to come undone at the seams. His articulation features a rotating head, the usual shoulder joints that feature rotation on the 5mm port and outward movement. Elbow bend and rotation, but no wrist rotation on the arm weirdly enough. Limited waist rotation, and hey, decent knees that properly proportion thighs to shins, which I think is pretty nifty. For size comparison, Earthrise Cliff Jumper, Wheeljack, and Hoist. And can you believe that everything in this shot is considered deluxe class? Gnarly. Voyager Grapple, Leader Optimus, and Voyager Starscream. Honestly, the price point sizing is all over the map. I don't think this is really news anymore. Does Ironworks scale well? Heck if I know. This is an original design after all. Though for playability, I still think that this should be,
3 times bigger than this!
So that was my review for Earthrise Ironworks. I didn't plan on getting this figure, but at the same time I already had every other release of this wave, Micromasters aside. So the thought of completionism had entered my mind, and Toy Hacks had reached out asking if I could cover the conversion set. So I picked it up, and I can't say I'm disappointed. I haven't been wowed like Cliff Jumper or Grapple did for me, but by no means is this a bad figure. It looks pretty good, it's got decent articulation, and it's based on an obscure character that can also become what the original came with way back in the day. Basically, I rate this figure 4 out of 6 Constructicons. This has been the Lazy Eyebrow.